All right, now we're live. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody. It had been, I don't know why I did that, but I forgot, and I had the camera turned around the wrong way, so I couldn't see the chat, so that was awesome. But now it's fixed. And as you can see, I'm sporting my snakeless, whatever you want to call it. At any rate, it's a very docile sort of scarf to be wearing, and hopefully it works out. I see people are starting to show up here. Nice. So, who's in the house? Thoropod's YT. Hey, nice to have you back. I believe you were in the last live stream, if I remember correctly. Yes, we had some technical difficulties, and I had to scrap the last live stream and start this one. But hey, it's fine. It's it's almost the same time, so why not? So I thought we'd just kind of hop in, and I've got everything in live chat so people can join in and do what they want to do. And we can ask questions. Wow, he's really chill right now, isn't he? He's hardly moving at all. Happy Snake Necktie Day. I like it. And I agree, Jay's Crazy Obsessions, nothing better than starting fresh. And speaking of a fresh start, I'm getting a fresh start with the Ancestral Plecos, thanks to you, Jay's Crazy Obsessions. And it's doing great. The super red Ancestral Pleco I got from you is doing really, really well. And I look forward to moving it into its permanent home soon. Tropical Exotics, welcome. Good to see you there. And Moultrie Geeks. Do I pronounce that Moultrie? Is that how I should pronounce it? Oh, now he's actually moving, and you can tell he's actually alive. So glad to see you here. Glad you made it this time. And I am glad that the last one was successful in answering your questions. Okay, good. I'm glad that I'm pronouncing it correctly. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I just thought I'd point this out. See this guy? He has kind of a small head. And I was talking to the guys at Reptilinks, and they said they were wondering about his small head, whether it was genetic or whether it was, something else, what was going on. And I mentioned that when we got him, he had been somewhat undernourished before we had him. And they said, yes, that'll do it, and he should eventually grow into, his head should grow into the rest of him. So looking forward to that. In the meantime, and it's been funny because he's sort of grown from the back towards the front. His very terminal end started getting bigger, and it kind of slowly crept up towards the head, and it just hasn't gotten there yet. Crystal's Pets and Plants. Hey, nice to see you there. And Jay's Crazy Obsessions. I'm glad to hear that. I hope he eats you out of house and home. I know mine do. Yeah, those Ancestral will go nuts. When I used to raise a lot of baby Ancestral Plecos, I would get, it was crazy what they would eat. It was just nuts. So, but I really enjoyed it. It's fun. They're one of my favorite catfish species for sure, and just one of my favorite all-around species. So it's fun to have a super red. I never had super red. I had calicos and albinos and normals before, and so it's fun to have a super red. And as I promised, I'm going to try to raise some super red babies at some point in the future. So. Why can't I see? Oh, okay. I think I'm making some sort of mistake with the chat or whatever. Look at this guy's belly. I love how up at the top, he's got almost pure white belly with black checkers, and then it just sort of orangifies as it goes down, and it's fun. It's a cool pattern. And look at that face. How could you not love that face? No matter what size his head is. Well, let's see what else I've got going on. The tank in which I'm going to be putting the Super Red Ancestral eventually is also a tank that we're putting a shoebunking goldfish into, which I'm excited about. They're both kind of in a quarantine-ish mode right now. And maybe he is camera shy. Fortunately, he's lost his head shyness largely. Before, when he was little, he did not like to be touched on the head, but he actually seems to like being scratched lightly on the head or the chin now. So Andrew Ewald, quick question, how big are baby giant canyon isopods? Are they, say, the size of a dwarf white? I think they're actually a little smaller than that, from what I remember. Yeah, because mine, when I first got my dwarf whites, or not my dwarf whites, when I first got my giant canyons, there was a female dropping monkey in the deli cup when I was opening the box. I mean, that's I remember. I should go back and look at that. It's a very old unboxing. I think it's the first unboxing I ever did on my channel, in fact, and at least of a non-fish thing. And I believe they are even smaller than dwarf whites. Okay. And Father Fish and Sisters is my most popular selling Pleco. I can totally see why. How are the multis doing? They are doing so well. I have got lots of babies in there right now. I think the pair that's up near the front right, which I've shown in my live streams before, has how many clutches? Maybe 4 clutches of varying sizes right now of babies. And the one behind, I think, has 3 clutches. And then there's another clutch of babies further to the left of the aquarium. And so all of them have babies going on. And some are multi-clutches. Like the face. Well, that's fair enough, Elaine. If you just like the face, that's good enough for now. I'll go with that. So, T-Bin. I'm going to call you T-Bin because I'm not sure how to pronounce the rest of your name. But yeah, thank you. Glad to have you here. And I'm, yeah, it's been a pretty good week so far in a lot of ways. And Dragon Udo, greetings. How are those new isopods doing? Let's see. You know, it's funny to me all the time is that this guy weighs almost 300 grams, and when we got him, he was like 60. But he seems to grow kind of slowly, but he's not really growing that slowly. It just sort of seems like it. He did have to catch up a little bit. Pat's Fish Tanks. Hey, greetings. And all right, good. I'm glad I was able to answer your question, Andrew. And how do you pronounce that? Ninja, something G Ninja. Hello. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name though. You can let me know. Oh, don't get in the chair. If he gets in the chair, he gets stuck. But I'm glad he's active. You know, this is his feeding day, as I've mentioned before. So, quick question: is it normal for morning geckos to eat their first set of eggs? From Jacob Gillespie. I wouldn't say it's normal necessarily for them to eat their first set of eggs, but it's not uncommon if there's a problem with the eggs, if the eggs are infertile, or when they lay them, there's a problem. Sometimes they don't quite, when they're just soft and they're kind of emerging, they're a little softer than normal, and sometimes they kind of mess it up. And if they do, it's very common for them to eat eggs that are abnormal or damaged. And I guess the probability of the eggs being abnormal or damaged, the first clutch, is a little higher. So in a sense, you know, it's a higher probability that they will eat those eggs. If the eggs get cracked in any way, they will eat them as well. So, yeah, I hope that answers the question. But in general, if the eggs are healthy, it is not normal for them to eat them. If the eggs are otherwise healthy, then and they're eating them, it could be that there's a calcium deficiency going on. Cool. Well, I'm glad that helped. And catching up here. Seem to sell them faster than I can grow them out. If you're local, Fish for You. If you're local, Fish for You is where you can get some. So is that where you sell yours, Fish for You? I've sold some to them too. Well, it's been a while because I haven't bred them for a long time, but when I was breeding them, that's one of the places that I would sell them. We actually gave some to the teacher of one of our kids the teacher had what was it? I think a 75-gallon tank or something. And we gave her half a dozen of ours or something. She ended up having generations and generations of them. It was pretty funny. And she kept saying, do you want some of these? Do you want some more? So corn snakes are the best. I love them. Well, garter snakes are also the best, but there are probably lots of snakes that are the best, but you're right. Okay, Woodsman Whitesmith, hello. And tank directly behind you is that dart frogs. Do you find them often visiting some of the higher spots of the enclosure? Ooh, let's take a peek. Let's take a peek. Yes, this is the dart frog enclosure. I'm gonna let you move in a little closer to just kind of check it out and say yes, that's true. They do indeed visit higher spots in the enclosure. I'm having a hard time making this work, so I'll try to make it work. They do often visit the higher spots in the enclosure, and I built it that way on purpose with the cork bark so that there are ledges. Like, can you see over on this side? No, you can't quite see it. Let me see if I can get you over there. There. Right here, there's a ledge of cork bark. There's another ledge of cork bark right here, another back over here. Yeah, and they'll go up and visit those a lot. And it works pretty well. I built that so that there would be avenues or climbing areas that they could get up to all the space and utilize the space as much as possible. That was my goal, and I built it, and it seems to have worked because I do find them up near the top all the time. So hopefully that helps. And now I have made it impossible for me to sit down, but I'm going to try anyway. And the Wild Watcher, do you have any pinicate beetles? I do. I've got 3 of them at the moment. I can collect them locally. 5-minute drive up into the canyon, and it's pretty arid here, and there are pinicate beetles all over the place in the right seasons. Not right now, of course, because it's way too cold, but this summer I collected several, and I have them in my desert tenebrionid and velvet ant enclosure. So yeah, super cool. I really like them. I think the pinicate beetles add a lot of movement to the enclosure because they tend to be more active during the day than some of the others. The blue death fainting beetles are really active in the evening and in the morning, but less so in the middle of the day, even though they will come out in the middle of the day. They're not necessarily as active, but the pinicate beetles often are. And they're also really voracious eaters. They're sometimes the first ones to the food, often the first ones to the food, especially vegetable matter, although they'll eat, proteinaceous food as well. But yeah, I like the pinicate beetles a lot. The ones that I have are Eleodes obscurus, and I have an Eleodes hispalabris, I think. So, okay, cool. Yeah. So, yeah, the mother of isopods had a corn snake that looked like ours but had red or pink eyes. Was she an A male? This one is a hypomelanistic, so she's got some dark, pigmentation a little bit, but just not as much as a normal corn snake would have. What was that?
Mr. Skeltel's a girl.
Oh, did I say she? I don't know what Mr. Skeltel is. I did the subcuddle scale count, and it's inconclusive, so I don't know. And thank you, Wally. I appreciate that. It was really fun to build the dart frog tank, and I can't take all the credit because my wife and kids all helped me. It was a collaborative project we did a couple summers ago, and it was really fun to do it all together. So, okay, my chat just flew up backwards. That was weird. Okay, trying to catch, yes. Yes, I agree too. Corns are awesome and gorgeous. Fabian, greetings from Costa Rica. Thank you, welcome. And Molter Geeks. Actually, guess what? I do have a tank build, not only a video, but a tank build series on this very dart frog tank. The summer that we built it, which I think was 2 years ago, we did the entire build we started out from, let's see, I did one on the unboxing for the materials for the tank. I did one on creating the fly-proof screening for the ventilation of the tank. And then we did the build of the background. We did putting in the substrate and plants and processing the plants. And then we did releasing the dart frogs into the tank. So have videos of all of those in there in a playlist all together. So Wally or another mod, if you have a second and you wouldn't mind digging up that playlist and linking to it, that would be awesome. So then Molter Geeks can check it out, and anybody else who wants to. That'd be great. If you have time to do that, mods, that'd be great. So Dragonudo, speaking of beetles, how are those death feigning beetles? Doing great. I am actually tonight going to be filming an update on the blue death feigning beetle breeding project, which is proceeding. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm excited for the next phases to move forward. It's a long process, but it's working, so I'm excited about it. And okay, Mother of Isopods, she was an A-male, nice. So David Buck is getting the first shipment of isopods today. He's planning to start a colony for a ton of vivariums, primarily for larger lizards. Cool. Which species are you getting? And so Ninja, G Ninja. You can literally just drive somewhere and get some beetles in your country. If I were to do the same thing in Brazil, I'd certainly receive a really expensive fine. Well, it depends on the species of beetle and where you're moving them and things like that. That's something to be aware of. Some beetles are regulated and you have to be careful. Moving them across state lines or even just capturing them can be an issue, so you do have to be careful about that in this country as well. But with the local Eleodes beetles, since I'm not moving them out of state, I should be okay. I spent some time looking up the regulations for darkling beetles, and Eleodes species are one that you have to be careful about shipping. And so I'm actually been trying to get in touch, talk to the entomologist at APHIS and ask them about that, because I don't want to ship anything if it's going to be a problem. If I end up breeding them or whatever, or buying them from out of state, I don't want to do it if it's not legal. So I'm trying to find out more about that. So Heather Jensen, what is the next kind of isopod you would like to keep? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm really excited about Porcellio hawesi. All of them, especially the ones with a lot of yellow, are really exciting to me. Let's see what else that I was thinking of the other day. Porcellio werneri are super cool. They're very flat isopods, for those of you who don't know. They look a little bit like Porcellio hoffmannseggi. They don't get as big, but they're very dorsally flattened, and they're a Greek species. They look really cool. So, yeah, I would say those two are up there. There's a lot of others that I'm excited about as well, of course, but if I had to pick two out of the air, those would be it, I guess. And Elaine recommended your website because you're very knowledgeable, and they had a question about orange isopods and death beetles. I sure hope they check it out. Awesome, I appreciate that. That's the kind of thing that helps the channel grow, which I really, really appreciate. So thank you, Elaine. And oh, Crystal, you got your ivory millipedes. Awesome. How many did you get? That's super cool. Backwoods Serpentarium and Pocosaurus. Hello, welcome. Mantis IRL, what do you think about having pitcher plant nepenthes for a cool decoration beside the top hanging down of a dart frog tank? Towards the top so the frogs don't get trapped and eaten. Well, that's a key thing I was thinking as I was reading pitcher plant. I was like, oh, what happens to the dart frogs if they fall in? If I could arrange it so that they wouldn't fall in, I think that would look super cool, because I like how nepenthes look. So totally, if you could make it work so that they're not going to get trapped, I would worry about it. I wouldn't worry about it. I would like to do that. But if, oh, well, Heather's saying that do all nepenthes need the dormancy? I didn't realize all of them did. I figured, there's a lot of carnivorous plants that do, but I didn't know that, so that's good information. So theropods, YT, do you keep any tarantulas? Nope, that's one of the taxa my wife has requested I not keep at all. So no tarantulas, no roaches, and nothing with medically significant venom. Pretty decent deal, because that puts everything else on the table. So I can live with that. Okay, so trying to catch up, everybody. Worried about housing them with animals that may eat them. Yes, well, that's a valid concern. Some lizards will eat them, for sure, will eat isopods. And morning geckos, so Philip Curlin. I keep morning geckos and I have a lot of videos on them, so yeah, you can totally check those out. And if any of the mods out there would like to post a link to one of my videos on morning geckos, you could do that, that would be awesome. Yeah, I have a lot, but if you want me to do a live stream with some morning geckos, it's been a while since I've done one of those, I could do one of those, if that's what you're asking. We could make that work. So David Buck is planning to set up a vivarium for geckos, then moving it from there. Curious whether the next level critter would be a good choice. Okay. In terms of isopods that you could keep in a bioactive setup, or in just any kind of critter after you do geckos, any kind of reptile? Okay. And mother of isopods. I'm hoping to get them to pupate. I would love to have blue death fanning beetles, but I'm not like they're wild collected. If we can get them breeding in captivity, I definitely have a tank of them. Yep, and that is the plan. Things are proceeding nicely, but I needed an incubator very soon, and I've been researching incubators for a while now. I actually spent about an hour on the bus taking care of that, and let's see. I think I've narrowed it down to a decent incubator, but those of you who have used reptile incubators and have, like Supreme Gecko, I know Wally has a lot of experience incubating reptiles. So Wally, if you happen to have a recommendation for a medium-sized incubator, not very big, I'm looking for one maybe 18 by 18 cube, well not cube, but 18 by 18 and about, 8 to 10 inches tall, something like that. If you have some suggestions in that size range, I would love to know about it. Trying to figure that out. Because that's what I need to get them to pupate. I have some that are nearly pupations. In fact, I have some that are probably, I could pupate them and end up with smallish adults, but not outside the realm of possibility. Like I have a couple of adults that are of a size that I'd probably get some more of about that size. I do want to wait a little longer and get them just a tiny bit bigger because they vary based on how much food and all sorts of things like that. Their environmental conditions when they pupate. So I want them to be nice and big and robust. So I'm just waiting a little longer for those. The older ones are getting close. And David Buck about crested gecko depleting a colony that I seed. Depending on species, yes. With my crested geckos, I keep dwarf whites and dairy cows, not in the same enclosure. I have crested gecko colonies, or crested gecko vivariums with dwarf white colonies and crested gecko vivarium with the dairy cows, and they both work, but they don't work with orange Porcellia scabra in my experience. So here we go. Okay, let's see. I'm just catching up, everybody. And they're cool. Cool. You're giving them some maca root powder, and that's good for them, I guess. Cool. I didn't know about that. I've heard about maca root for humans, but I'd never heard about giving it to isopods, but apparently it's doing well for them. And egrets, Cubaris species Jupiter, are very cool. Currently, I cannot keep, I can't get the Cubaris shipped to me because I don't have Cubaris on my permit. I only have Armadillidium and Porcellio, and not all of those, but I would like to do that. And Ninja, do you have any Curculionidae beetles? They're just the cutest. You know that, I'm trying to remember, what's the common name for that? I know I've heard of that family, but I'm not remembering. Okay, so, oh yes, so Supreme Gecko, two things. The Dart Frog tank build and morning geckos. If you can get those playlists up, that would be awesome. And what is nice about carnivorous plants is any of my worms, like butter or waxworms, die and my animals won't eat them, I can put them in the plants. Hey, good point. That's a good perk. And Jay's Crazy Obsessions. My girlfriend lets me keep spiders as long as I don't bring them inside. That works. And if I ever get an off-site facility, then I could keep some. I don't know if I would keep tarantulas or not in an off-site facility, but I guess I could. Just not at home. And Gretel, which invertebrates would keep in a roughly 11 by 16 glass terrariums? Ooh, you could do a lot of different things in there. 11 through 16. You could do a tenebrionid tank with various desert beetles, and with or without velvet ants. You could do, there are a number of types of scorpions that would do fine in there as long as, it's escape proof and whatnot. You could do isopods in something of that size, or millipedes in something of that size, as long as the ventilation is appropriate, that kind of thing. So All right, so Supreme Gecko, thank you, Wally, for putting the Morning Gecko playlist up for Philip. I appreciate that. So in general, ones that go well with isopods would be nice too. Okay, well, if you're going to do things like crested geckos, you could branch into a lot of different geckos. But let's see. You could do some frogs too. There are quite a few interesting frogs you could go into if you want to set up something for, say, dart frogs. That's a fun one to go into, and you get to do the whole bioactive thing like you do with the geckos, and you get to play with some of the stuff that is higher humidity than, say, morning geckos. So, cool. Trying to catch up here, everyone. Okay. All right. We want to see some geckos. Let's see what we can see. I'm gonna see if I can do this. Oh, I don't have a lot of time, do I? I didn't realize that I was running out of time. It goes fast. And don't know how many gallons that is, but longer than it is tall. Lid isn't tight fitting. Okay, so Andrew, how are the millipedes faring lately? I've got a lot of baby millipedes among my rainbows. I don't have rainbows. My bumblebee millipedes have babies. My Hiltonius pulchris have babies. My ivories have been breeding as well, and I've got lots of immature ones in there that are, most of them aren't babies, but they're juveniles, I guess. And my Spirostreptus species 1 are maturing. I have one really, an adult that I've had for years, but I've also got some young ones that should be mature soon, so hopefully they'll be breeding soon. And I've got a couple of I've got some Orthoporus that are not breeding, but that's not a surprise because they don't tend to breed in captivity. But somebody gave them all to me. It's not a species that I would necessarily purchase just because they don't breed in captivity, but I ended up adopting them. They were basically, people were saying, I need a place to keep these guys, and they needed a home, and they asked me if I would be willing to keep them, and I said, I will give them a home. So I really do try to focus on things either that I'm captive breeding or that can be captive bred, and I want to try captive breeding. Like the blue death fainting beetles, I'm going to be breeding those. I'm working on it, and I have successfully produced larvae. Let's see, these are some babies right here. There's one in the test tube sticking out, the morning geckos. There's one on the back wall there. There's one right up here. Oh, I just scared away. No, there's one right there. There are about 13 babies in here, but they're kind of hiding. I sold off a lot of the oak leaf fig and kind of cut it and pulled it out, so it needs to regrow. But you can see some babies up in the corner there too. So, and down here the oak leaf fig is doing a lot better. But there are the geckos. They're not very active right now. Let's see if we can see any adults over here in this other setup. Well, there's an adult up in the corner. I don't know if you can see it extremely well. There's some eggs in the back up in the top there. And then here is the one that I rotate them out of. There's a couple of eggs that still need to hatch. They should be hatching fairly soon. The corner there, and then I'll move the adults back into this vivarium and take them out of here so that all the eggs that they've laid in here can hatch. So hopefully that works. I mean, it has been working for me, but I'm sorry they're not terribly active right now. It's best when I feed them on camera. That's a good way to get them to do, to be interesting. But what I'm going to do here, someone asked about the pinicate beetles. I'm going to see if they're active right now. Well, there's one of my blue death fainters. Let's see. There's a blue death fainter. There's a velvet ant. There's one of the pinicate beetles, but it's in the shadow. You can't really see it. Oh, that's no fun. Is anybody else? Oh, there's one active on the back there. There's a pinicate beetle crawling around in the back. So back to the chat, and then I will try to catch up in the chat, and then I've got to go so I can make some video. And okay, so Gretel, that probably is close to a 5-gallon vivarium. It might be a little bit bigger than that actually. Probably pretty close to that though. 5 to 8 gallons, something like that. And the lid isn't tight fitting. You could totally do a beetle setup like this. Don't do velvet ants if the lid is not tight fitting. But you could do a beetle setup like this. You could do isopods because they're not really good at climbing glass, although some of them could climb the silicone. Well, there's another beetle in the corner there in the background. So, yes, hopefully that helps. And oh, the corn, we're calling him Mr. Skeletal. That's my son named him that. So there you go. And thank you, Wally, for the incubator suggestion. I have been looking at Hubabator, so I'm glad to get an expert opinion on that. I think that's what I'll do. And so mother of isopods, the oranges seem to get eaten. That seems to be what happens to them. Let's see. Can Daphnia survive outside temperature around 0 Celsius, around 32 Fahrenheit? I have had Daphnia outside. It depends on the species, of course, but I've had Daphnia outside at temperatures of, near freezing, where the water has a thin sheet of ice on top. If it freezes clear through, the adults are going to die. Some of the eggs may survive, but yeah, you won't get a lot of activity or a lot of breeding at that temperature, but you will. They can survive if there's ice on the surface. Recommendation for UTH with a thermostat. You know, this is what I do. I'm just going to tell you. I get the, what's the brand? Oh, sure. Ultratherm. I like Ultratherm, and then I get the Jumpstart thermostats, and just plug it into the Jumpstart. So, Ultratherm. That is my favorite brand. That's what I use for our corn snake. I'm using it for our garter snakes. I even use it under my brine shrimp hatchery. So hopefully that helps. And Gretel, you're welcome. And I generally spell it with 1, which is kind of funny, but I do. Slav Pepe, what plants would you recommend in bioactive isopods vivarium with dairy cows? Well, as long as they've got plenty of food, I would do just about any vivarium plant with them. You know what? I'm battling a snake who's trying to climb into stuff over here. It's tricky. Sorry about that. If it looks like I'm distracted, I'm just trying to dig him out. Okay. So yeah, you can just grow about anything that high humidity sort of plant, normal anything you could grow with dart frogs. You could do with dairy cows, as long as the dairy cows are getting enough food, so they're not going to go after the plants. That's what I would say. So. All right. Russ, quick question. A friend asked how many types of mourning geckos exist. I thought there were only 2, Hawaiian and normal. Your thoughts? From what I understand, there are quite a few different clones, some of which are Hawaiian, and there are at least, I want to say, I don't even know how many clones there are. There's a number of Hawaiian clones, so separate clonal lineages in Hawaii itself. At least 3, and I'm pretty sure there are more than that. And then there are some others from other areas, like there's a Philippine one, I believe, and quite a few others. I'm not sure what sort of research has been done on that, but I've seen the Philippine ones that look quite a bit different from the ones I have, and I've seen photos of the different clones of mourning geckos that look quite a bit different even from Hawaii, so I'm not sure, but I would say more than 2 from what I've discovered. And thank you for the like spike, Supreme Gecko. Looks like it must have worked because we've got a pretty good number of likes there. And down the wormhole, hello and welcome. Oh, indeed, Pocosaurus. Ant is in the word giant. Yes. Moth is in mammoth. Cool. All right, well, I think we are just about to that point, everyone, where I need to go do things like feed snakes and clean the cricket bin and make a video for Friday. So thank you for joining, everyone. I really appreciate your support and showing up, and hopefully you learned something today. And yeah, have a great evening, and we'll catch you on Friday. Oh, and I got the snake detached. Here he is. He's let go of the shelf. So say bye, Mr. Skeletal. And Thank you, everyone. It was a great chat.